What's going on, crypto crew? Sean's coming back at you with another cryptocurrency video. Now, before we get to this, make sure you watch this video to the end. We know we say this a lot, but this video is going to show you where Bitcoin is going as far as this next cycle top. Question is, we don't know when the top's going to be, but we can probably almost guarantee where that top is going to be going. It's going to blow your mind. So once again, watch this one to the end. Before we get to any of that, make sure you go ahead and check us out at our Patreon. We do analysis like this on our Patreon on a weekly basis, so make sure you join here for more exclusive content. So let's get straight into it. Taking a look at Bitcoin on the macro. We're looking at Bitcoin on the macro. Let's clear the chart up and we'll tell you what we see and what we need to look out for the next cycle peak. So as you see, zooming into this price action here, once again, we'll zoom back out, but we see we put in this high, this $69,000 peak back in November of 2021, came down, hit our head, almost got through it, broke through it, and now we're back above this downtrend. So once again, the trend's your friend to the end. Looking at the macro, this is what we care about, this is what we're looking at. One thing we want to show you is this RSI. This RSI is showing us something very, very important. And let's make this a little bit bigger so we can see. So as you note here, we want you to take a look here. Even from way back in 2011, the early days of Bitcoin, you see the Bitcoin price action was cents back here. Imagine that. We come up and have a hit our head, get rejected, and then come back up. This second run up here is the actual peak before we see the bear cycle. This is a micro bear cycle, but believe it, Bitcoin went from $31 back down to $2. So this was a bear cycle here. And then we had that pullback, then the halving event. This is the Bitcoin's first halving in 2012. What happens after halving events? You have that supply shock. And then we came up and ran up and put a new high in. Now look at the RSI again. We come up and kiss this level the first time and get a rejection. And then what happens next? That next run up to the upside is that peak where Bitcoin peaks out. So always the time we have a rejection, then have a new high, then have the rejection, then the new high, and then we have that halving cycle again in 2016. We come up after the halving cycle and hit the peak for the first time, get rejected, and then make a new high, and that's the peak there. Then we go into the bear cycle again, rinse, repeat. This is where it gets a little different. This is where things changed a little bit for Bitcoin. So, and we're going to show you the price target we see as well. But so hold tight. But look here, you see we come up and we hit our head like anticipated. That's in April of 2021, around that $65,000 peak at the time. We get that rejection going into the summer of 2021. And then we lose steam, we lose momentum right here. We don't come all the way up and put in another peak up to this blue line. That's something to note. But we did come up and put in another peak, and ultimately that was the top. So nobody could time this. It's sort of hard to say rule of thumb, just sell as soon as it hits up here, because when it was here versus here, you're talking about a $134 Bitcoin versus a $1,200 Bitcoin. Here versus here, you're talking a $2,100 Bitcoin versus a $20,000 Bitcoin, and then this was $64,000 versus $69,000. So there was something that happened in the markets back here where it freaked the markets out and caused Bitcoin to fall short. I think if it wasn't for some FUD that was put into the markets back in late 2021, when the Fed came out and said they were going to be starting to do aggressive rate hikes and quantitative tightening to fight inflation, that's what you need to pay attention to. Now, we do have, that's the RSI. So looking at the price action now, what do we see? How do we anticipate where these peaks could be going? So look here, from the pullback after the first blow up top, right before the first halving, this is the bottom. The bottom was around $1.99, $1.97. So we're doing the fib extensions and we pull this up to the previous high. And look right here, the 4.236, we actually come and hit it, wick above it, then get a rejection, then that ultimate blow off top. So I wonder if it does the same thing over the next cycle, through the next halving cycle. So let's get this bottom here. That bottom's around $159, 160 bucks to that previous peak, which is around 1241. So look at that. We come up to the 4.236 almost perfectly again before getting that rejection and then blasting through it to make that peak. So that's one thing to note. And then after this next bottom, which is around 3100, let's see where this takes us up to and pull it up to the previous high, which is around that $20,000 threshold, really about 19.9. So we ran up and we didn't quite make it to the 4.236. So we did make it to the 3.618, also wicked above it. If we zoom into the price action, we can actually see we wicked up to right above the 3.618. Didn't quite make it up to the 4.236. But you see we had that downtrend and then that reversal back up almost to that 4.236. So we didn't quite get that high. So it's safe to say we could be seeing a target somewhere between the 3.618 to the 4.236 based off of history. So let's get rid of this and then let's rinse repeat this after the next halving cycle. If the bottom's in, which we believe it is, the 15.6 level, and we pull this up to the previous high. Let's see, the previous high is around that $69,000 peak. So let's mark that there and see the 3.618 all the way up to 200,000. And then the 4.236 is 243,000. So could we see a $200,000 Bitcoin in the price chart? That could be what's in the cards. This blue line here represents the halving. So note, after the halving, what happens? The price gets pumped up to the upside. So where did this green line hit that $220,000 threshold? Towards the end of 2024. We see these price targets hit by the end of 2024, early 2025. That could be in the cards. That definitely could be probable. So this is what we see. Right now, the price is at 27,000. So you see that there is definitely an opportunity that could be had to hit this $200,000 Bitcoin price target. And one thing to note, we do see somewhat of a shoulder ahead. Could we be running up to here before getting a cool off again after the halving and then blasting through this to hit this target up here? Well, that technical target, when it comes to the inverse head and shoulders, you just pull this down from the neckline to the bottom of the head and pull it up. That takes you up to that $200,000 threshold, that 4.236, $240,000 to be exact. So all in all, things could get very bullish after the 2024 halving. Right now is still an optimal time to buy if you haven't bought yet. We've been telling you guys this time and time and time again. We don't want to sound like a broken record, but if you're sitting on the sideline and you understand Bitcoin, then what are you really doing? And with that, I'm Sean with the Bitcoin Bros. You guys like this content, go ahead and smash the like button. Once again, we do stuff like this on our Patreon all the time. Go ahead and check us out there, patreon.com/Bitcoin Bros. And with that, that's all I have for you today, and I'm out.